We are now working on Project 7, starting on page 359. Stage 1, creating charts and graphs. Infographics are an important part of graphic design. Things that show you where to go, anything that's passing along information. Infographics for this section is covering things like bar graphs, pie charts, area charts. Unfortunately, Illustrator is underutilized in this department, but the most beautiful infographics can be developed in Illustrator. You need to have downloaded and expanded the coffee files into your WIP folder. And we're going to start by opening the file Chalkboard AIT in the coffee folder. In the Tools panel, we're going to choose the Line Graph tool. Let me center this up. In the Tools panel, choose the Line Graph tool. Click and drag an area that snaps to the guides on the artboard. When you start a new graph, you get a thing that looks like a spreadsheet window. This is the data panel, and that's where you can enter the data that you're going to put in for your graph. You can type in the different data cells, but many graphing projects will involve importing data from an external file, and we're going to do that. So in the data panel, click the Import Data button and navigate to your files. And in the data files, we're going to select the Prices text file and open. Then click the Apply button in the data panel. Click the 2010 cell in the data panel to select it. In the text field at the top of the panel, add quote characters on both sides of the numbers. That's going to keep it from converting into decimals. You can't use your arrow keys to move the insertion point. You have to click on the right location to add new characters. Add quote characters around all of those text. Let's see. Let's drag this down so you can see all of them. So you're just simply going to have to put quotes around each one. I know it's tedious. And then click the Apply button. Click the Cell Style button at the top of the data panel, and in the resulting dialog box, change the number of decimals field to 3 digits and click OK. Click the Data Panel Close button to close the panel and save yes. Save this file as Price Graph. In your coffee folder. Pick up your selection tool and click any part of the graph to select it. We're going to get our character panel up, and we're going to change the character to a 9-point ATC Onyx normal. And we're going to apply a 90% horizontal scale. Control right-click on the graph and choose Type in the context menu. Choose Value Axis at the top of the dialog box. This has different options depending on the kind of graph we're creating. In this case, the vertical axis is on the left, so that's the value axis, and that's the one that marks the range of values that are shown in the data. The current axis labels are automatically generated based on the data in the table. We want to choose full width in the tick marks and in the Add Labels area, type a $sign into the prefix and type a 0 for the suffix. Choose Category Access next and change the tick marks length in that menu to none. And then you can apply that by clicking OK. With this still selected, double-click the Scale tool. You might have to go looking for it. Scale might be located underneath something. Double-click the Scale tool and change the uniform scale to 90% and click OK. Picking up or keeping that selected, you're going to have to go back in and change your font size back up to 9 points. And then use the arrow keys to nudge the graph until it fits entirely within the guides. Pick up the Direct Selection tool now, deselect. You're going to have to move over a little bit. Drag a selection marquee to pick up the objects that are for the legend, and we're not going to use those, so just drag those completely off the artboard. We don't really need a legend because there's only one line, but we can't delete that item because it's technically part of the graph object, and if we were to delete that, we could get some really bizarre results. Anything outside of the artboard area isn't going to be placed when you put the file into something else. It just kind of sets it aside without breaking apart the graph. So at this point, you can now save this file. Let me center this back up again, and with the Direct Selection tool, we're going to select the first square on the data line. If you double-click the Scale tool to open the Scale dialog box, change the Uniform Scale field to 300% and click OK. Press Ctrl to access the Direct Selection tool and click to select the second square on the line. Release the Ctrl key and double-click the Scale tool to open that up again. And because the preset is still in there, click OK to apply that change to the second data point. Do that for each of those data points on the line. Pick up your Selection tool and click away from the graph to deselect it. In your Layers panel, show the Design Elements layer. Click to select the small coffee cup artwork that's to the right of the artboard. So you're going to have to zoom out to get there. With that piece of artwork selected, choose Object, Graph, Design. Click New Design and then click Rename and call it Coffee Cup. And click OK. And then OK again to close that. With the selection tool, click to select the graph. Control right click the graph object and choose Marker in the contextual menu. Select the coffee cup and click OK. Click off and you can save again. Make sure your graph is deselected and go into View and check your guides to make sure that they are locked. Pick up your direct selection tool and select the left-hand vertical line. We're going to change the stroke to a half-point line and use the color panel to create a 20% black line. Select the type objects and do the same thing. Remember, you have to use your direct selection tool. We're going to change those to a fill of white, which is going to make those illegible for the moment. Again, pick up the lines, hold down your Shift key, change those lines to a 1.5 point, and again make the stroke color white. Click away from the graph to deselect everything. Open your Layers panel, and I'm going to hide my design elements and show the background and heading layers. Using your Type tool, replace the placeholder text in the heading layer with the text from the graph legend. You're just going to have to type that in. And then you can save this file, and this will be submitted for grading.